Hi. I don't know. I don't have anything. What do you want from me? What? I don't have anything to say that's funny or is interesting to start each video. Thinking's hard. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm done. I'm done thinking. Hello. Welcome. Thank you for joining me. My name is Alexander, and I make music as Arcade Island. If this ain't your first rodeo, welcome back. First of all, thank you. Secondly, you know the deal already. I put it on an album back in October called Dreaming in the Void. It rules, I hope. And I've been going through the album one song at a time and showing you how I made them. Last week was Weak Clay, and today, oh boy, today is No One's Coming to Save Us. And boy howdy if that ain't the truth. This song actually started on acoustic guitar, but you didn't see that one coming. I don't think you did. I actually recorded it on my phone like 2 years ago. And if I can find it, you can listen to it now. Or if I didn't find it, you won't hear it at all, and that'll just be empty. But it started out a little bit slower. This is a song that changed a bunch. And I think I just, at every single stage of the journey, I just kept trying to like dial it up to 11 a little bit more. From the moment I even like conceived of how this album was going to be sequenced and arranged, I knew I wanted a song towards the tail end of it that was kind of about the end of the world. And I wanted it to be a bit sarcastic and not too serious. I didn't want it to be like this somber thing. I wanted it to be upbeat. I wanted to kick ass. And yeah, I don't know. Let's dive into it. The first thing that you're going to hear is actually the last thing that I added, and it's a sequence of sound effects. These are all legal sound effects. I didn't just go to YouTube and type in sound effect and then use it. These are all ones that I purchased, so don't sue me. So this first obvious one is an air raid siren. Then I just chopped it up and looped it to build some tension. And right as that starts looping, I have another air raid siren, but sort of descending, as it says right there. Air raid sirens freak me out. Like, I know that they're supposed to, that's the point. They're not supposed to be pleasant. They're supposed to be something that gets your attention. But like, you know, both where I grew up and where I live now, I live near a nuclear power plant, and they just like test the sirens sometimes. And every time it puts the hairs up on the back of my head. I just don't like them. So why not put them in a song? And then I use some sound effects here and chop them up in such a way that to make a little bit of a rhythm here. So this is a scream, like a woman screaming that I chopped up. And then we have two like car alarms. And I kind of have them all just randomly assigned left and right and center. I guess I was subconsciously inspired by Hunting for Witches by Block Party. The opening to that is like a bunch of different like news clips that are chopped up in a rhythm and then built upon, that's a rad intro. It's very unique if you've never heard it. And then I have this swell that I made on my Korg mini log, which is just like a bass note on like a saw pad that I then just repeated and comped together so I could automate it as one. And then I have one more scream sound effect that I put some tremolo on to help establish the rhythm and really like bring us into the start of the song. And when all those are together, and then the song just kind of kicks off. All right, so drums, take a shot every time I say this, but I'm not going into each one. Very standard. I would guess I would call this song more like a thrash punk song. I don't want to call it that and then have people come for me in the comments. I've had no one make any comments so far, so I think we're good. And I had to fix a snare hit right here. It was just a little bit too slow for my liking that I didn't really notice when I was recording. And then bass, DI'd. Playing root notes. And that rhythm section works together pretty well, I think. And we have our heavy guitars here, recorded the same way as every other song. So we've got your amp signal and then the DI signal, and then I recorded this left and right. Well, all of that together works pretty well. I just didn't think it had enough personality. I didn't think if I heard that, if I went to a streaming platform and they just compiled a bunch of rock tracks from that month, I'm not sure if I heard that I would be like, oh, I know exactly who that is. I know what song that is. And so I was recording it, I was like, let's have a synth melody. I had something originally a little bit more complicated. I ended up going with these whole note arrangements that are ascending kind of constantly. And those are going a lot throughout the whole song. And I think that adds just a layer of tension. I think there's a bit of a dissonance there, and it kind of just sounds very urgent. These synths here are actually entirely custom patches that I've built. The way that I built them, very painstakingly. These are kind of hidden here, but let me pull them back up. Each of these, you'll see that I have notes attached to each of them. I went on my Korg mini log and I set the delay to 100, and I put some drive on it. And so each note that comprises this pad sound, if you will, is an individual sound designed element that came off of my Korg mini log. I just recorded each of them for 30 seconds to a minute or somewhere around there. I really didn't have any like set goal in mind. And they sound like this. I did some pitch bends in there too and like adjusted the resonance. And I really just had fun with it. This is like my favorite kind of thing. It doesn't have to sound a specific way. The goal is to make it a little dirty and strange. And then I bounced those all out individually to a folder. And then I went into the sampler here and I mapped each note to the right key. I went left and right, and to ensure that the left and right signals were somewhat different for each other, I set the start and end points of the sampler for each note at just different regions. And when you play them together and have them set left and right, you get this. And those are both going to a bus called Creepy Synth Out. I mean, I'm nothing if not a fantastic labeler. I just got rid of some of the low end with an EQ, added some saturation distortion, and then put a little bit of reverb on it. And that just glued it all together to make it sound like one instrument. And then we get into the first verse here. A little bit different for me. I kind of talk sung this one. I wouldn't even say I sung it. I don't know what you would call this. It's more like spoken word. It is rhythmic. I wouldn't go so far as to say it's a rap or anything like that. Yeah, I have like a primary couple of elements here where I'm just kind of acting. I'm not an actor by any means, but if you don't commit to this, it can sound really weird.
March 21st, it's 100 degrees.
And then I did some like whisper tracks, and I put some ring modulation on it to really make it sound a little bit stranger.
He says the kids from next door ride their bikes in the street. From next door ride their bikes in the street.
And these are all going to a bus called Verse Out, and I put a little chorus on it and got rid of some sibilance with a de-esser, and then compressed it a pretty great deal just to keep all those things in check. The chords in the verse are the same as in the intro. I just kind of get rid of the guitars. And then in the second part of the verse, we have these guitars that come back in. And then we get into the pre-chorus. And my vocals here are very sarcastic. And almost, I wanted it to sound like, almost like school children, like mocking somebody. The point of view of the character that I'm playing in the song is someone that sees horrible things happening and is ashamed, I guess, of waiting for someone to come along and fix it instead of taking action themselves. And in the pre-choruses, it's a different voice, and they're kind of mocking the main character. And I don't know, not to get political, but there's certainly a lot of people that are just like, relax, it's not that bad kind of thing. like sticking your head in the sand kind of thing. Those are all going to a bus called pre-chorus, and there's a ring modulator on it. Without the ring modulator, it sounds like this. Then in the choruses, you know, we got our loud guitars.
Waiting on a hero to save us, even though I know
And to just make the choruses pop a little bit more when they start, I put this little sound effect in here, or synth patch really, but it's just a sine patch on the Korg mini log. And then my vocals here are mostly just the primary melody doubled, so I sang it twice.
waiting on a hero.
And then just at certain points in the song, there's not really a call and response, but just to emphasize certain lyrical elements, I do add some harmonies selectively.
Waiting on a hero to save us, even though I know I could try to save us. Could try.
That's actually a 3-part harmony.
Could try. Everyone believes it or makes it up until they make it out alive. Easier to know it.
There's a rhythm that pretty much every instrument is beholden to in the chorus, where the snare does a little double hit, and you'll hear it right here. Right there. And my vocals also do the same thing, and I kind of all built it around that vocal melody.
To save us, even though I know I could try. Everyone believes it or makes it up until they make it out alive. Easy.
And I think the bass is pretty cool here. First part of the second verse is pretty much the same as the first verse.
Will I decide in this American dream to sell off my home or simply die for free? I'm a good little boy.
I'm being a little snot here.
I'm a good little boy.
And then the second part of the second verse, I switch things up a little bit here, and we move from that punk beat into more of a dance beat. So a 4 on the floor with some 16th note hi-hats. And the chord progression is the same, but I change up the pattern. So the drums sound like this. And the bass is doing this. And then up top, we got some guitar elements. So we have this, it's left and right. So one guitar is doing this on the left. And the other one's doing this. And then the vocals down here, I switch up the melody, or I switch up the rhythm a bit, and I kind of throw in some screams.
Lie, lie, lie. Tell myself it's all a dream. There's a plan in store for me. Trust the guy from the machine. And now the fall is very near. I don't have a single prayer, but plenty of fear.
And you can really hear the ring modulator doing a lot of the work there. It's kind of like it sounds to me like when you're playing Mario Kart and somebody has the like lightning bolt item and it makes everyone all wonky and slow and tiny.
Tell myself it's all a dream. There's a plan in store for me. Trust the guy from the machine.
I just wanted to sound a little twisted. And then back into the pre-chorus, I switched up the lyrics just a little bit. The second chorus is the same as the first chorus, except I didn't mention this the first time, but in each chorus and the second repetition of it, there's a synth melody here that I played in my Korg mini log. So I did no EQ on it. I guess it just sounded good as it is, and just added a little bit of delay to it. And then as we go into the third and final verse, There's a little bit of a sound effect here that just guides us into that verse. I mean, do you want me to say it? Do I need to say it? I did it on my Korg mini log, and that was a really simple one. I just had some noise, and I played it with like a pretty long delay, and then I just cranked up the timing on the delay to speed it up, and I got this kind of wild sound.
There's 30 minutes till the end.
The bass is playing the same thing, but I'm just doing a 4 on the floor. I'm down to a single vocal.
There's 30 minutes till the end of the world, but my boss wants a write-up in Microsoft Word.
If you've ever worked in corporate America, you absolutely can relate to that, because corporate America is a joke. I know this because I've worked in or with people in corporate America for 15 years, and it's all drastically unimportant stuff that people are calling you at like 10 p.m. be like, if the world were ending, they'd still be like, well, where's my delivery? Where's my Friday delivery? We have to have our Teams meeting. We got to circle back. We got to touch base. How do we notionally wrap our heads around this branding? And then our air raid siren comes back in the background. And then there's two blended percussion elements here. One is a MIDI, and then the other is a drumstick on a bucket. And then we get the snares back into the upbeat.
Fucking, fighting, begging for more.
And as those upbeat snares come in, I'm doing these atonal chugs on my guitar, which basically I'm just having my hands on the strings, but not depressing enough to actually allow it to play a note. And I'm just striking it with the pick.
Fucking, fighting, begging for more.
And when I'm singing this, every time I sung this, I tried to make it sound like my voice was ascending, not in pitch, but like intensity. I don't know.
Or so I waited and waited for a ref in the game, but we're down at the buzzer.
And then which leads us into the rhythm dropping out. And then, yeah, I wanted all hell to kind of break loose. So it's screaming time, baby.
Ain't nobody came!
Who needs a throat? It's pretty fast. And then there's some synth elements here to help things out. I have this synth bass here because this starts in a higher register. I wanted it to have a little bit more body to it, so I did this synth bass an octave below that note. And if you're listening to this on a phone, you're not going to hear that. So just pretend you did. There's a screech sound effect here. It kind of sounds like the dentist drill sound effect in Bury a Friend by Billie Eilish. Which is actually a synthesizer that I'm just bending the pitch up and down. And then there's the sound effect. It's actually coming from this MIDI data here. And when you do MIDI data and you do things like modulation or like pitch bends with a pitch wheel on it, that data is tracked as like metadata within the MIDI file. So you can see like this right here, this little path is showing you that there's pitch data attached to it. And so I kind of sent that out to the Korg mini log and attached some delay to it. And yeah, that's how you get that. Those warbled synthesizers in the space between my screams are doing this downstroke. And then the guitars are, cranking away. And then we kind of take off.
I finally realized.
And then I have these ending vocals here, which is just a primary on top.
I finally realized. Here in the backseat, there's no one at the wheel.
which I then bring up an octave.
It's all violence.
Should I have a harmony underneath it?
I finally realized here in the backseat there's no one at the wheel.
And that is just going to a bus called Ending, where I doubled up the saturation distortion to put two different types of saturation distortion on it. These letters down here just correspond to different models for saturation distortion, which I don't know if I've ever mentioned this before, but saturation distortion is also sometimes called harmonic distortion. And it kind of models more like tube compressors and tube amps from like the analog era, where the different circuits would get overloaded, and that kind of distortion sounds great. Like digital distortion doesn't sound good because it's technically clipping, where you're having a signal go over a limit and there's no more headroom for the system to even like process all of that information, and it just starts to crap out and you start losing information. Whereas that harmonic distortion coming from like those circuits being overloaded back in the day, it's actually kind of a desirable distortion, right? Like when you're recording to tape and you're using analog hardware, in like an analog board and recording through tube amps, and it just starts to, it's a much more pleasant thing that it's a really difficult thing to even describe. Things just don't sound clean, and helps things stand out in the mix and give them character and give them texture, give them warmth. If you don't have a saturation distortion plugin in your system, you're kind of missing out. It's really great on vocals, really great on guitars, really great on just about everything, really. Or even great on like your mastering bus. In the very last line here, I cannibalized one of these tracks from the verses.
But it was so sincere.
And it all ends pretty suddenly. And I guess I'll just cover this in this one, even though I guess you could consider it part of the next song, which is The Bottom Line, spoiler alert. But I wanted to transition into The Bottom Line. And so I just did a few transitional effects here. First off, you can see that the tempo of the song is 166. And then I moved it to 193, which is the tempo of The Bottom Line. I used MIDI synths to do these instead of any of my hardware synthesizers, simply because the MIDI data, as I mentioned in other songs, can lock in and sync up to your tempo information here at the top in your master control. So when I put delays on these, it would sync up and it would get the speeding up effect. So one's doing this. Another one is doing this. And then this one is just a simple reverse swell that was like a brassy synth that I played like the root note of the opening chord of The Bottom Line with a huge reverb tail on it, and then bounced it out and reversed it, and then you get this. And then when Steve Kilpatrick mastered the record and then sequenced it, he just had to align them so that The Bottom Line basically started just in time right around here. And with gapless playback, it kind of sounds like it's one continuous thing. That is No One's Going to Save Us. No one is going to save us. It's one of my favorites on the record. Every song is one of my favorites in the record. All right. Don't make me choose. It's one of my favorites. I think it's super fun. I think it's super different. I think it goes. We only got 2 more of these, you know, we're in the playoffs, but the big game's almost here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Go listen to my album. Be good, be smart, be kind, eat right. Don't smoke. Vote in local elections. Stay informed. Volunteer. Give back. Don't yuck anyone else's yum, unless their yum is like fascism or racism or homophobia or something like that. Then yuck it up, baby. Drink plenty of water.